I'm Lena Carter. I live in a quiet, tree-lined suburb of Minneapolis, Minnesota with my husband, Daniel, and our 2 sons. I'm 38 years old and work as an elementary school teacher. Daniel, who's 40, is a programmer for an IT company. Our home is a cozy 2-story house with a roomy backyard that's perfect for weekend barbecues and family picnics in the nearby park. It's the kind of life that feels straight out of a middle-class American storybook, comfortable, predictable, and full of small joys. Our oldest, Caleb, is 6 years old, bright, energetic, and a favorite among his classmates. He often has friends over to play, and there's always laughter echoing through the house when he's around. But Caleb isn't just an ordinary kid. He has something different. Something other children don't. At times, he seems to know what people are thinking, or even catch glimpses of the future. At first, Daniel and I chalked it up to childhood imagination, those uncanny coincidences that make you smile and move on. But everything changed when Caleb was just 4 years old. One day, completely out of the blue, Caleb burst into tears and said, "Grandpa's going to heaven." We dismissed it as a child's fantasy, the kind of thing kids say when they're overtired or emotional. But 3 days later, my father died suddenly of a heart attack. That moment shifted something deep within us. From then on, we started listening more closely to what Caleb said. Our younger son, Lucas, is 4 now. He's quite different from Caleb, quiet, thoughtful, with a deep love for books and his collection of Legos. He can spend hours building elaborate little worlds, lost in his own imaginative universe. The boys get along well, and I often feel grateful for how protective Caleb is of his little brother. As a family, we share a lot of love and support. Sure, balancing work and parenting has its challenges, but Daniel and I have always managed to push through together. Watching our boys grow is the greatest joy of our lives. But nothing could have prepared us for what happened next. Everything changed on one unremarkable Saturday afternoon. Daniel and I were in the backyard doing some yard work. The boys were inside the house, playing as usual. The sun was out, and the air smelled like freshly cut grass. Then suddenly, Caleb came running out, tears streaming down his face. "Mom. Dad. Lucas is gone." At first, we assumed Lucas was just hiding, playing one of his quiet games in a closet or behind the couch. But after checking every corner of the house, panic started to creep in. We couldn't find him. Daniel and I split up and began searching the neighborhood, calling his name. But there was no sign of Lucas anywhere. Fear gripped my chest like a vice. Shaking, I called 911. The police arrived quickly and began taking down all the details of Lucas's disappearance. A search was launched immediately. Neighbors poured out of their homes to help. As the hours ticked by with no sign of our son, the panic deepened. The police widened the search and reached out to the local media. Our community came together in ways we never imagined. Flyers went up, people knocked on doors, and volunteers scoured nearby parks and woods. That night, I held Caleb close as he sobbed. I whispered silent prayers, begging the universe to keep Lucas safe. Daniel tried to stay composed, but I saw the fear behind his eyes. Over and over in my mind, I repeated, "Lucas, please be safe." The next day came, but Lucas didn't. The search grew larger, and soon the FBI joined the investigation. We held a press conference, pleading for help. "Has anyone seen our son, Lucas?" I said, my voice shaking. "He's 4 years old, with brown hair and blue eyes. He was last seen wearing a blue t-shirt and jeans. Please, any information, no matter how small, could help us bring him home." Daniel stood beside me, a hand resting on my shoulder, steadying me. The outpouring of support was overwhelming. Neighbors brought food, watched Caleb, and prayed with us. Our church community held vigils for Lucas's safe return. But as the days passed, hope began to thin. Every police update was the same, no new leads. Caleb started having nightmares and would cry, saying he felt Lucas was scared. We did our best to reassure him, but his words chilled me to the bone. A week turned into a month. A month became a year. The active search slowed. News coverage faded. But we never stopped trying. We kept hanging up flyers, posting updates online, doing anything we could. Every night, I'd go into Lucas's room, hug his stuffed animals, and whisper a promise I couldn't break. "Lucas, Mommy's still looking. I'll never stop. I'll find you, I swear it." Our family changed in ways we couldn't have imagined. We smiled less. We talked less. Caleb grew quieter, and his teacher mentioned he didn't participate like he used to. Daniel and I struggled under the weight of it all. We didn't blame each other, but there was a heaviness between us, a silent grief that wedged its way into our marriage. Still, we held on to one thing: hope. However small, it was the thread we refused to let go of. Then, nearly a year after Lucas disappeared, Daniel's sister Rachel visited us for the first time in ages. She'd kept her distance, maybe not knowing what to say or how to face our sorrow. When the doorbell rang and I opened it, there she was. "Lena, it's been a while. How are you?" she said softly, offering me a gentle, hesitant smile. "Rachel, thank you for coming," I said softly. "Please, come in." She stepped inside, and I led her to the living room. Caleb was on the couch, half watching the TV, but his eyes flicked toward the doorway when he noticed her. His face lit up briefly with recognition. "Hi, Aunt Rachel," he greeted politely. Rachel smiled and moved toward him, arms open for a hug, but as she got closer, something in Caleb shifted. His whole body tensed, and then he suddenly shouted, "This woman is hiding my brother." Time froze. The air in the room went dead still. Daniel had just walked in, and now all three of us stood there, stunned. Caleb trembled and stepped behind me, clutching my shirt like he was trying to disappear. "Caleb, what are you saying?" I asked, my voice tight with disbelief, trying not to let the panic show. "Lucas is at Aunt Rachel's house," he said, his little face deadly serious. No. Rachel's expression changed instantly. Her cheeks flushed red, and she raised her voice. "What are you talking about? That's crazy." The tension was thick enough to choke on. Daniel looked from his sister to his son, clearly rattled and trying to make sense of what he'd just heard. My own mind spun in circles. I wanted to brush it off, to stay logical, but the memory of Caleb's strange ability clung to me like a shadow. Daniel exhaled slowly, rubbing his forehead. "Rachel. I'm sorry, but I think it's best if you go home for now," he said carefully. "We need some time to talk, just as a family." Rachel looked stunned, hurt, even, but she didn't argue. She gave a curt nod and left without another word. After the door closed behind her, a heavy silence fell over the house. I turned to Daniel, searching his face. "What should we do?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. He ran a hand through his hair, his eyes troubled. "I honestly don't know," he admitted. "Do we trust Caleb's words, or trust Rachel?" We were caught in a brutal dilemma, torn between the instinct to protect our child and the fear of accusing a family member without proof. It was a collision of gut feeling and reason, a mirror of how messy American family ties can get when faith and fear collide. Caleb stood nearby, tears gathering in his eyes. "Mom. Dad, please believe me. I'm not lying." I bent down and pulled him into my arms. "We hear you, sweetheart. Mom and Dad are going to take this seriously, okay?" That night, after we put the kids to bed, Daniel and I stayed up talking, long into the night. There was no easy answer. Caleb's words haunted us, but so did the consequences of suspecting Rachel without evidence. We didn't want to act out of paranoia, but how could we ignore even the slimmest chance that Lucas was somewhere, waiting to be found? "Lena," Daniel said quietly, "if Caleb's right," his voice broke a little. I reached for his hand. Neither of us wanted to go there, but we knew we couldn't just sit still. We also had to consider the legal risks. Accusing someone, especially family, without solid proof could backfire badly. Still, protecting Lucas had to come first. Always. By the time morning arrived, we hadn't reached a clear decision, but we agreed on one thing: we had to act. Carefully, but decisively. Confronting Rachel outright felt too dangerous. So we decided to begin with a quiet investigation. Daniel took the day off work to discreetly check out Rachel's house. I planned to ask a few questions around her neighborhood, casually, without raising any alarms. Before we left, we sat Caleb down and told him, "We believe you. But we have to be very careful. Do you understand?" Caleb nodded, a glimmer of hope in his eyes. "Yes. I just want to help Lucas." And so we began. Caught between the pull of blood and the need for truth, we set out to find answers. After several tense days of quiet investigation, we made up our minds we'd go to Rachel's house and check her garage. In American suburbs, garages are big, often crammed with forgotten belongings, or secrets. Rachel's home was no different. That Saturday afternoon, Daniel and I drove over, my stomach in knots the whole way. When we rang the doorbell, Rachel opened the door with a puzzled expression. "Lena? Daniel? What's going on?" Her voice was polite but cautious. Daniel took a breath and said evenly, "Rachel, can we take a look in your garage?" Her face went pale. "What? Why?" she asked, blinking fast. I stepped in gently. "It's about what Caleb said. We just want to be sure." Rachel looked around, maybe noticing the eyes of nearby neighbors peeking from windows or behind curtains. After a pause, she stepped aside and motioned us in. Inside the living room, she tried to stay composed. "The garage is just a mess," she said with a shrug. "Nothing worth seeing." But Daniel didn't back down. "We'd still like to check." There was a beat of hesitation, her mask slipping for a fraction of a second. "All right," she said slowly. "But there's really nothing in there." She led the way. We moved through the kitchen toward the garage, my heart pounding so hard I could feel it in my throat. When Rachel opened the door, a wave of musty air greeted us. Inside, the garage looked like any other, cluttered with tools, gardening gear, old furniture, and toys scattered in corners. At first glance, it was nothing unusual. But then Daniel's eyes locked on something. "That door," he said, pointing toward a small, almost hidden door in the back wall. Rachel immediately jumped in, trying to sound casual. "That's just a storage room. There's nothing in there." But Daniel didn't give her a chance to say more. He stepped forward, voice trembling but resolute. "Open it, Rachel." Rachel flinched, her expression twisted with panic. For a moment, I thought she might scream. But then, with shaking hands, she reached into her pocket and pulled out a key. The sound of it turning in the lock echoed louder than it should have. The door creaked open, revealing a dim, enclosed space. Daniel started to step inside when we heard it, a faint sound. A rustle. A whisper of movement. "Is someone there?" I called out, my voice barely steady. From the shadows, something shifted. Daniel clicked on a flashlight and shone it into the room. That's when we saw him. Lucas. Thin, pale, trembling, but unmistakably our son. "Lucas!" I cried, rushing forward without a second thought. He flinched at first, unsure, but then his eyes met mine, and his face crumpled. "Mama! Papa," he sobbed. We fell to our knees and wrapped our arms around him, holding him tight, tears streaming down all our faces. After a year of fear and searching, of endless nights filled with longing, he was finally in our arms again. Behind us, Rachel collapsed to the floor, sobbing uncontrollably. "I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry," she kept repeating, her voice cracking under the weight of her own guilt. The room was thick with emotion, relief, rage, heartbreak. I held Lucas tightly, trying to focus on the only thing that mattered: he was alive. Daniel stood and, through a shaky breath, pulled out his phone. "We have to call the police." At his words, Rachel broke down even harder. But there was no going back. Lucas clung to me, his small body trembling, and I gently stroked his hair. "It's okay now, sweetheart. You're safe. We've got you." He nodded faintly, his face buried against my shoulder. He was scared, fragile, but he was here. While Daniel spoke to the authorities, we moved from the garage to the living room. Rachel followed us like a ghost, her face pale and hollow, her spirit broken. The minutes until the police arrived stretched on endlessly. We just held Lucas close, still trying to process the unimaginable. When the officers arrived and began taking our statements, Rachel's confession came pouring out between sobs. I wanted a child," she said, her voice trembling. "But I can't have one. I'm infertile." Daniel and I exchanged stunned glances, speechless. In a society where infertility affects so many, despite all the advancements in medicine, the emotional toll is often hidden, but immense. Rachel's pain was raw, spilling out in broken fragments. "I tried everything. Nothing worked. And everyone around me, they all had children." Her voice cracked. "When I saw Lucas, I don't know what came over me." She covered her face and wept violently. Listening to her confession, I couldn't help but feel a deep ache, not just for our family, but for her too. It struck me just how fragile the mind can be when it carries too much pain alone. If only she had talked to someone. If only there had been help. "Rachel," Daniel said quietly, voice strained with emotion. "Why didn't you say anything to us?" She looked up, tears streaming down her face. "I was ashamed. I couldn't tell anyone." Her words were a painful reminder of how silence around mental health can fester. If only we had known. If only we had seen the signs. After the police took Rachel into custody, we rushed Lucas to the hospital. As doctors examined him, news of his rescue spread quickly. The hospital lobby filled with familiar faces, neighbors, church members, strangers, people who had searched, prayed, and never given up hope. Voices of joy rang out around us. "He's safe. It's a miracle." Tears were shed freely, even by those who didn't know us personally. In that moment, I felt the strength of our community like never before. In the darkest times, it's the people around you who help you stand. The doctor later informed us that, physically, Lucas was okay, fragile, yes, but nothing critical. Emotionally, however, he would need time and professional care. "Psychological support is going to be essential," the doctor said gently. "This kind of trauma needs careful healing." And I knew he was right. But at least now, the healing could begin. When we returned home, the support from our community was overwhelming. Neighbors showed up with warm meals and essential supplies, their kindness wrapping around us like a blanket. Church groups came by as well, offering prayers and spiritual comfort, filling our home with quiet strength. Caleb was absolutely overjoyed to have his little brother back. He jumped up and down, hugging Lucas so tightly I thought he'd never let go. "Lucas, I'll never let you go again," he declared, his face lit with joy. Watching them together made my heart ache in the best way. Through all of this, I came to truly understand the power of professional care and the lifeline that is community support. A single family alone might falter under the weight of something so traumatic, but with the hands of others lifting us, we found the strength to keep moving forward. In the weeks that followed, we slowly began to rebuild our daily rhythm. Life wasn't exactly normal, not yet, but we were healing, piece by piece. The shadows of the trauma still lingered, especially in Lucas, who often woke up crying from night terrors. During this time, Rachel's trial progressed. The court, after reviewing her mental health history, ordered psychiatric treatment in a mental facility instead of prison. We had mixed feelings, anger, sadness, even pity, but deep down, we knew it was the right decision. Rachel needed help, not just punishment. In the US, family counseling is a common step in processing traumatic events, and we embraced it fully. Guided by compassionate professionals, we began our path to healing together. Once a week, we sat together in a therapy room, learning how to put our feelings into words. We listened, cried, and slowly began to understand one another on a deeper level. I want to cry when Lucas cries, Caleb said during one session. The room fell silent, the weight of his words pressing gently on all of us. That moment showed me just how tightly our family was bound together. We also had individual therapy. Lucas responded well to play therapy, gradually regaining his smile with the help of skilled counselors. Daniel and I, too, attended couples counseling, where, for the first time in a long time, we spoke openly about the fears, guilt, and love that had been bottled up inside us. Lena, Daniel said one day, eyes wet, I'm so glad you're here. I couldn't even reply, just reached for his hand and cried. Thanks to our health insurance, we were able to continue these sessions regularly, which made a world of difference. There were still hard days, but over time, the weight lessened. Our smiles started to return, tentative at first, then stronger. Now, 5 years after that day, our family has not only recovered, we've grown. Lucas is thriving in elementary school, full of life and laughter. He plays on the soccer team and shines with his quiet determination. Sometimes, he still struggles with memories, but with our love and support, he continues to overcome them. Caleb has become a strong and protective big brother. He's respected at school, known for his kindness and quiet wisdom. His unusual gift, his ability, has become a source of connection within our family, something we no longer fear but cherish. Daniel and I? Our relationship is deeper than it's ever been. Facing heartbreak together taught us how to trust, how to be vulnerable, and how to lean on each other fully. Our bond with the community has also grown stronger. The connections we once took for granted have become essential. We make time now, for neighbors, for thank yous, for shared meals and check-ins. We know what it means to be carried by others. And through it all, we've seen the true value of the social support systems around us, from insurance to ongoing therapy, to support groups for trauma survivors. These resources didn't just help us survive, they helped us heal. This journey taught us something we'll never forget, the power of love, the strength of family, and the hope that carries you through the darkest times. We've learned that no matter how impossible things may feel, with mutual care and a little faith, anything can be overcome. And with that belief, we keep living, day by day, with smiles on our faces and hearts full of gratitude.